A dead homeless man from Wales saved thousands of Allied lives in World War II. He never fired a weapon. He never gave an order. He was already dead. British intelligence chained a briefcase full of fake war secrets to his rotting wrist, dropped him into the Atlantic Ocean, and Hitler fell for it completely. The question that should be keeping you up at night: how do you convince the most paranoid dictator in human history that a corpse is telling the truth? It's 1943. The Allies have a catastrophic problem. They must invade southern Europe through Sicily. It's the shortest crossing, the most logical route, the most defensible entry point. Every German general knows it. Every Nazi analyst is screaming it. Hitler knows it. Surprise is the most valuable weapon in warfare, and the Allies had none. You can't unring a bell. You can't make an enemy unknow what they already know, unless, and this is a very specific kind of insane, you replace what they know with something better. The problem wasn't secrecy. They couldn't keep Sicily secret. The problem was misdirection. They needed Hitler to look somewhere else, somewhere convincing, somewhere that made strategic sense. And they needed to do it without Hitler ever suspecting he was being pointed. One man had an idea so insane it was immediately written down, filed away, and almost forgotten. Then desperation made someone dig it back out. That man was Ian Fleming. Yes, James Bond's creator, working in British naval intelligence. In a throwaway memo, Fleming sketched out a concept. Plant fake documents on a dead body, let the enemy find it, let them think they'd stumbled onto something real. He tossed it into his out tray without a second glance. Behind him through the window, London sat under barrage balloons. A naval intelligence officer named Ewan Montague found that memo. And instead of thinking that's cute, he thought, what if we actually did it? Not just drop a body. Build an entire fake human being. A name. A rank. A life. A death with exactly the right cause. They called it Operation Mincemeat, which, if you think about it for even 1 second, is the most British name possible for a plan involving a dead man and a briefcase. The concept was simple. The execution was anything but. But before any of the spycraft could begin, they needed one thing: the right body. And the ethics of what comes next are genuinely uncomfortable. Montague's team had a very specific shopping list. Someone who died of drowning or pneumonia, leaving water in the lungs. Because a German military pathologist would absolutely perform an autopsy, and if that autopsy showed anything other than drowning, the whole operation collapsed. The body had to be medically convincing to a trained enemy expert examining it specifically for deception. After weeks of searching morgues, they found him. Glindra Michael. A Welsh drifter, 34 years old, no family to speak of, who had wandered into a London warehouse and eaten rat poison. Probably accidentally. His lungs were damaged in a way that could, under the right examination, pass for seawater. In the coldest possible terms, he was perfect. The team got quiet permission from his surviving next of kin. And then Glindra Michael, a man the world had already forgotten while he was still alive, became the most important corpse in the history of warfare. Finding the body was the easy part. Now they had to build an entire fake human being from scratch. A man who never existed, but who had to be more convincing than anyone alive. Glindra Michael became Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. Montague's team went to work on his life with the obsession of method actors. They didn't just forge military documents, they built a person. In his pockets, unpaid bills, a scolding letter from his bank about an overdrawn account, a theatre ticket stub from a show that had actually run in London that week. Also in his pocket, a stern letter from his fictional father. And love letters. Heartbreaking, intimate love letters from a fiancée named Pam. Pam was real. She was a colleague's girlfriend who agreed to write them. She described missing him, worrying about him. A photograph of Pam was tucked into his breast pocket, right next to his heart. Every single detail screamed, this man was rushed, this man was human, this man had somewhere to be. The fake secrets in the briefcase claimed the Allies were targeting Sardinia and Greece, not Sicily. Think about that. The entire deception rested not on the military documents, but on the bank statement, on the love letter, on the creased theatre stub. Those details were the load-bearing walls of the entire operation. They were what made the secrets believable. The fake life was perfect on paper. But paper doesn't float. They had to get this dead man into the right patch of ocean at the right time. drifting in exactly the right direction, without a single person knowing. The body was packed in dry ice inside a sealed canister. The canister was loaded onto HMS Seraph and transported across the Atlantic to the southwestern coast of Spain, near a small port town called Huelva. Huelva was chosen for one specific reason. It had an active Nazi spy. Spain was officially neutral in World War II. In practice, it was crawling with German agents. April 30, 1943. 4:30 in the morning. In total darkness, the crew of HMS Seraph silently slid Major William Martin into the cold Atlantic. The current did exactly what the planners calculated. A Spanish fisherman found the body hours later. The briefcase was still chained to his wrist. The body was found. The briefcase reached Spanish authorities. But the real question, the question that decided whether thousands of soldiers lived or died, was whether the documents would actually reach the Germans, and whether the Germans would actually believe them. Spanish intelligence photographed every single document and passed the copies directly to German WWII agents. The files traveled up the chain with terrifying speed, moving from a Spanish fisherman to Hitler's desk in days. German analysts did not just accept them. They scrutinized everything. They examined documents under microscopes for forgery. They checked the ink. They verified tide patterns to confirm the body's drift was consistent with a plane crash. They cross-referenced every name, every stamp, every military reference. Everything checked out. Hitler was convinced. So convinced that he personally overruled his own generals, who still suspected Sicily, and redirected massive German defensive forces towards Sardinia and Greece. Panzer divisions, artillery, troops, all repositioned away from Sicily. July 10, 1943. Allied forces landed in Sicily. The beaches were dramatically under-defended. The invasion that should have been a bloodbath became one of the most successful landings of the entire war. Operation Mincemeat worked. A dead homeless man had just changed the course of World War II, but here's the detail nobody talks about. Glyndrall Michael, the man who died alone in a warehouse, forgotten, unmourned, killed by rat poison meant for vermin, was given a real military grave in Huelva, Spain. He is still there today. His headstone reads, Major William Martin, Royal Marines. For decades, the British government kept Operation Mincemeat so classified that his real identity couldn't be revealed. He died as nobody. He was buried as a decorated officer. The man who meant nothing to the living world became, in death, one of the most strategically important humans of the 20th century. Almost no one knows his real name. We started with one question: how do you make the most paranoid dictator in history trust a dead body? The answer turned out to be painfully, uncomfortably human. You give that body a life, unpaid bills, a worried father, a girl he loved, and a photo over his heart. Hitler wasn't fooled by the military documents. He was fooled by the bank statement, by the theatre stub, by the love letters, which means the most powerful weapon British intelligence deployed in 1943 wasn't a submarine or a forged stamp. It was the illusion of an ordinary human life.